Thank you for listening to Return to Roots Mil2Vet Resource Podcast, where we document our shared experiences, stories, and transitioning and reintegrating from the military to the community. For more information, go to mil2vet.com. If you have little ears, ensure you listen to the content before you allow them to listen. And if you are in crisis and homelessness, suicide ideations, or incarceration, dial 211 Courage to call for assistance. Now, stand by for the sound of freedom.
Who am I? Oh boy. Again, what's our time limit? An hour? Oh geez. Okay. So once upon a time, all right. So I'm Tanya Corbett, retired Navy counselor, retired last year. What a hoot and challenge that was, of course, but we'll get there. So when I joined in 98, I was at aviation boat-made equipment first and absolutely hated it. Hated it. But no, I was excited. Top Gun is what influenced me to join the Navy. Was excited. Got to the aircraft carrier. You know, that first 72 hours that we always had to watch prior to every command. You know, and command indoc. Well, I was that person. I should have been a star. Like they should have used me in my story. I could be signing autographs. I got to the ship and it's midnight. And first off, my sponsor says, well, just let the cab know that you're going to the George Washington. Absolutely. Take me to the George Washington. And he's like, and I said, they're in the shipyards. He's like, which one? I was like, well, I was told you would know, and I get there, it's midnight. I can't get through the turnstiles. We picked the first one, being in Portsmouth, we were good. And can't get through the turnstiles. I need to get in, but I can't. And finally, somebody from the ship comes down, gets me. I mean, it's dark, it's cold, I'm hungry, and I just want to sleep at this point. And finally get to my rack. Some other young lady comes and gets me, takes me in, gets me to sleep. And she's like, here, this works. Here's some blankets. Good night. Sleep well. I'll see you in the morning. See everybody waking up, hear all the noise, the hustle, bustle, everybody getting ready for work. And I was like, well, I guess I should probably get up and get ready. I don't even know where my stuff is. It's still shoved in my sea bag, trying to dig out what I can. Probably looked awful. And finally she finds me and she's like, oh, there you are. Let's go. I'm like, I hope you were the girl from last night, because if not, I don't know where we're going, And, I was still excited, wanting to be a part of things. And there weren't very many females yet in the Air Division. There was only a few within. I started out in the Bowcats. There was only a few of us. And it was, we'll have a seat. We'll get with you. We'll find you something to do. Have a seat. We'll find you something to do. I'm like, well, listen, I want to learn. I want to do the things. I want to see all this. Well, we're dry dock. There's not much that we can do as everything's contracted out, right? So it was more of a hurry up and wait kind of thing. Have a seat. We'll get to you. I think I sat in the lounge probably for the first 2 weeks, and they're like, you're so quiet. And I'm like, I don't know what to talk about, but plus you won't be saying that after a while. So you'll be regretting that you thought I was quiet. But I just got really frustrating. And December of 98, I got to the ship. In May of 99, I went UA. I was a deserter. I was gone for 2.5 months. Oh yeah, me and my little boo, we decided to run away. Had just bought a car. We pulled up. We missed ship's movement twice, and I was like, I don't really want to go. I was like, do you? He says, nope. And I was like, well, let's not go. It's not. So I go through all of that. I go to the brig for 30 days. Come back, and 40, and not too long after that, I was like, I really don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. So I go UA again for 4 days, come back, and I march right down to the master at arms shack, and they're like, Airman Hoffman, what are we going to do with you? And I said, I was UA, so let me sign my papers and move along. And so that goes by, had XOI, and I've always been, as I am, very bubbly, outgoing, outspoken, friendly, I've always loved people, and maybe a little bossy, but I
I
went
don't.
to XOI.
I
Yeah,
don't. Nope. Nope. Don't see it.
not, you don't see it, right? So go to XOI. I have never heard so many people in one room say so many awful things about me. I was like, wow, that sucks. And so we go out and we party, we do our thing, have a good time. As we're driving into the ship the next day, as I'm getting ready to go to captain's mast, hungover. I mean, I was a bright one. So we go in. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I am setting up my life right now for the rest of my life by doing this. Like, this behavior is not okay. So I go in, I knock on Chief's door, and I said, Chief. And then, you didn't walk into the Chief's office back then. That was extremely unheard of, right? You didn't go to the Chief's office. You were looking for the second class and maybe the first class if you were lucky to find him then, right? So I was like, he's like, Airman Hoffman, what can I do with you? What can I do for you? And I said, Chief, I don't want to get kicked out. And he's like, come on in, have a seat. So we talked. He went and talked with the division, went to captain's mast, and obviously he believed in me, right? I made it to retirement. So he obviously believed in me and saw something that, that I was passionate about what I said and what I meant. And, I've been on the ship now for almost over a year, going on 2 years, and not one qualification. And we're getting ready to go out on deployment. They obviously kept me. So I did my 20 days restriction with extra duty and got my crap together right after that. Worked on pretty much every qual that I could possibly get in that deployment. And then life was good. And I ended up pregnant later on down the road with my first kiddo. Went to VAW 120, did my pregnancy there, got out. And then I was like, well, I miss it now. I was like, but I didn't know what a career counselor was then. Like, I saw the career counselor then when it was time to separate to go to TAP. And I think I slept through TAP, but funny, I'm a career counselor, right? So but I had no idea what that was. And probably it wasn't even 10 months later, I was in the reserves. Did reserves for quite some time, went to HSC 84, did a couple units while I was up at Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and mobilized to go back to HSC 84, mobilized twice with them. And then the second time around when I mobilized with them is when I converted over to career counselor. And my story is the reason why I wanted to do it, because I didn't know what a career counselor was, and I didn't know how beneficial they were. But by that time, I'm an E5, and the things that we should have known halfway through our career, I had no idea about, none whatsoever. And as I became a department career counselor while I was in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, really enjoyed all the things that I was learning. And I was like, I really want to do this. I want to be able to help others the way that I think I wish I would have been helped. But other than Chief Williams, helping me from getting kicked out of the Navy, from being a deserter and running away from home all the time. So I wanted to be able to give back to them and help them as much as possible, learn all the things that I had no idea that even existed as a junior sailor. But that's me in a nutshell. And then I became a career counselor, and here I am. But that's my story.
Yeah, you just recently retired from the Navy, correct?
I did. Yep. So last year, June 30th, I retired. And being a career counselor, we know a thing or two about records, and we know a thing or two about calculating dates. So I don't know how many times I recalculated my dates over and over, but because of my story and all my crazies, so I joined in August of 98. I separated November of 2002. So because I had to make up for that time that I was gone, that I went UA, and I had to make up that time that I served in the brig. And so all that time was on there. And then, and I'm still getting letters that my pay is still wrong. But they came back after auditing everything, saying that my pantry base date changed. I was like, oh, it did not. I didn't have a year of break in service from the time that I got off active duty, came back in. I made up that time for brig and my desertion time. So that was already tacked on to that first contract. And it was clearly stated on the DD-214, the difference of all that time. So they are still coming back saying that it's wrong, that it's wrong, that it's wrong. They completely shifted my pantry base date. Then as I was packed out. So I was in Williamsburg, Virginia. And the Wednesday, I'm due to be out of my apartment. Pack up is on Friday, or pack up was the next day, and everything was on Friday. And I was due to be out of that apartment on Sunday. They called me Wednesday, the command did, and said, they audited your records. You owe us 30 days. I said, you have got to be kidding me. There's no way. And I went back and I fought and I said, here's the dates. Here's the proof. Here's my original contract. Here's the DD-214. Here's the dates that show, my desertion and my break time. And they're like, they're still saying no. And I'm like, kick it back. I'm like, I'm telling you that this is correct. So I'm still fighting it. It's been over a year.
Man, that's crazy. So what was it like when you first got out? Like that whole entire because you just recently, how long ago did you retire?
Last year, June, what is it? 22. Yeah, so just over a year ago.
Yeah, and so I imagine you were preparing for it beforehand, but like it still hits you that whole entire first time you see your paycheck, you're like, oh, that's horrible.
It is. It is absolutely horrible. Thank goodness the VA had their stuff together, because if it wasn't for the VA, the VA is getting people paid. When that used to be the biggest issue was the VA. The VA's got it. I mean, as long as you're processing things on time and you're starting on time, I haven't heard anyone complain about the VA yet. Getting their appointments, getting everything done, and getting paid in a timely manner. I was just talking to one of our sisters, Dolores, and she's been out now since June, July, and she is still not getting paid.
Yeah, I've heard some of the similar things. I know I'm getting paid, but I'm still waiting on my VA. So, but it's a thing that people should plan for, not to get paid right away.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you should have at least, at minimum, 3 months worth of pay saved up. And that's not including any other savings, right? That's accessible money, not savings that you have put in anything else, right? Because you obviously don't want to touch any of that that's meant for, long-term retirement, that type of stuff, or whatever it is that you have planned later on down the road in your life. Or maybe you don't want to work ever again. I don't know. But you should have at least 3 months worth of savings, of not savings, but a paycheck. Like whatever you make in a month, you should have that set aside times 3, because you're not going to get paid. You're not getting paid. But nobody tells us that. Everybody says contribute to your TSP, do this, do that. You need to save here. You've got your emergency funds for when you blow a tire. But nobody tells you that you should save 3 months worth of income to have accessible upon retirement.
So when you got out, did you know what you were going to be doing when you got out?
Absolutely not. I spent up until the day I left taking care of everybody else. I have always had a hard time of taking care of me. And then it was, oh, hey, Tanya, you are crossing that blue line for the last time in like 2 months, right? What the heck are you going to do? The plan was to actually move to Phoenix because I love it there. And then I had a personal training job lined up there. But because the Navy was like, hey, by the way, you owe us 30 days. I wasn't trying to pay rent, obviously, in 3 different places because we still have the house in Washington State. So, wasn't trying to pay all that. I'm not getting paid, not trying to pay rent all over the world. So because of that, I lost the job. I was driving through from Virginia out to Washington, stopped here in Illinois, and I was here probably for a couple weeks, was in the gym working out. On the owner, we were kind of joking about, as when I was a Redcon 1 athlete, put my poster up sign in to put the supplements in there, this or that. So we were talking about jobs, and then I messaged him. I said, if you have an opportunity for me, I'll move home. Because at this point, I've lost the house that I had set up, or the villa, apartment, whatever you want to call it, in Phoenix. And they're not going to hold that job another 30 days. Like, they're ready to hire people. They had people, you know what I mean? So I get it. Sure enough, not long after that, JP, I actually interviewed as the morning I was hitting the road to head out west, to go see the family, go watch Aiden graduate. And not long after that, he was like, when can you get here? So I think in the end, I truly believe things happen for a reason. I wasn't meant to go to Arizona. I was meant to come home, work here. I love it. Love this job. Love these people. But I think because when I didn't realize what I was going to be doing, and I think my biggest fear was not having people. I'm like, I can't go from talking to, at minimum, probably 30 sailors a day, right? To not having anyone to help and guide and mentor and, I don't know, just to chat with people and see how life is in general. People just need that. I think people get shocked when you go to the gas station and buy a snack or a soda or get gas and go inside, whatever, or get money out of the ATM, and you're like, bye, Tina, have a good day. And they're like, I don't know her. But when we use people's names, it lights them up, or just have a general conversation with somebody. So that was my biggest fear, was because I was so busy taking care of everybody else, I wasn't really too focused on what about me. Like, I've got this. I've been doing it now for 12 years. I've got this in my back pocket. And then I was like, no, you don't, Tanya. You don't have it together. And, I did for the most part, but it's those little things, like, how much money should you have at your disposable income when you retire? And 3 months, and that's probably at minimum. I would say at this rate right now, probably 6 months. Because people just aren't getting paid unless you plan on working right away, or you have, supplemental income, you're married, you have a significant other, and you've got a way to supplement that, then so be it. But at minimum, probably 3 months of pay in order to survive. And you'll probably be pinching pennies then, buying bread from the dollar store. So, I think that, and starting things on time, you have to start at that year mark and start getting things done that you can as soon as you possibly can, and getting your appointments going with the VA as soon as possible, or with medical. And there were some things, something as simple as, oh, well, you can't do your separation or retirement physical until you're 6 months out. And then after just talking and conversing, oh, but you can get your eyes done, you can get your hearing done. And there were things that you could get done a year out that nobody was talking about. Nobody shared that. But simple things, instead of trying to get it all done at one time. Oh, so you mean I could have did this 6 months ago? Sweet.
See, and a lot of people, they'll wait for the TAPS or TRS or GPS or whatever it's called nowadays, the transitioning class that's mandated by Congress. And they'll wait for that class to start their transition. And that's why, if you guys look at our show and you look right up here in the top right hand corner, besides our logo, there's one other logo that pops up, and that's the My Transition Timeline Tracker 365. That thing will literally help you get through your transition. It's an app on your phone. It's really easy. It maps everything out on your phone, and it gives you a percentage of where you're at before. And I recommend 2 years at least to start it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That way you have an idea of like, oh, okay. And it gives you the 24 months, the 18 months, the 18, the 16. It breaks it down for you. And even after you're out, it breaks it down to after a year out what you can do. So because you're right. We wait till the last moment, but it would have been great if you would have known about this app, because you would have been telling your sailors about it.
Yeah.
And once telling your sailors about it, you would have been investigating it. And then, we would be better preparing our sailors. And that's why I just want to make sure I shout that out to everybody. Take a look at that app. It's not up there just because it's making me rich, because it doesn't do anything for me. It's for everyone that listens to the show.
Yeah. And then that, and telling people, so even like sailors that we do, a career development board, and they're on the fence of wanting to, separate. They're unsure, they're not sure if they want to separate, stay in, whatever the case may be. We go through all that, right? We talk about the timeline, and I provide them anything, and there was always one rule: sailors don't leave my office without something in hand. And that may be physically sending them an email, printing something out for them. And we, as tech, everything is tech savvy and all this and that sometimes, or apps, and we have all these things at our fingertips, but sometimes it's still nice to have a piece of paper. I even do it with my clients. I had pamphlets made to help them with habit tracking, their nutrition, goals, like SMART goal sheets, like all these things. But I would have sailors do that, and then I would have them do, because my transition, all those courses were online because of COVID, right? Go do these courses, and then we'll talk. Like, let's really get moving. If you're thinking about doing this, let's get the ball rolling, because we got to get this ball rolling. You're already late, but it is the small things of, and physically actually using that tracker as a checklist and doing the things that need to be done. Because if you don't do it, you're so behind. But a lot of those things of, the things that are not discussed in TAP on when to start, when to do things. And that tracker's been around. It has you starting 18 to 24 months out. And that has been around since I've been a career counselor. And it started as an Excel sheet. Somebody made an Excel sheet, you put in your dates and your times, and it automatically calculated it out because somebody's very savvy at it like that. And, so that has been around for the longest time, but nobody wants to use it. And then they're wondering why. But unfortunately, I think a lot of things that are happening right now are out of our fingertips, no matter what we did, how far out we planned and started. But yeah, and then following up with then, separating and getting acclimated and moving. In order for me to see the VA doctor, I had to go in for my initial. You can't just go in. Like, once you get established to wherever it is you're going, you need to call the VA ASAP and get your initial appointment in.
And just keep in mind that you're still going to have to pay for that appointment until your VA claim goes through. So a lot of people may not understand that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get out, you have to get your TRICARE switched over, and you also have to set up VA appointment, and um, waiting for the waiting for your disability claim to go through is going to take time. So it's like, well, is it worth $35 for a visit? But just keep in mind that you're going to have copays. The whole entire free medical goes away as soon as you cross that blue line for the last
Oh
time.
yeah. Yep. And I didn't know that. And so with TRICARE too is if you, so the kids were all over the place. I've got, had Luke in California, with West Coast, East Coast, Central, wherever we're at. So, I had to call TRICARE for each of them. Whatever region they were in, I had to call the separate regions. It wasn't just a one phone call. I had to do the separate regions. And then I noticed that the payment wasn't coming out. And I'm like, well, what is happening? And they said, well, you never called when they didn't tell me. So when I called, they said, yeah, you're good to go. So then I noticed, or I think one of the kids had to go to the doctor for something. Maybe Jackson, a school physical. I don't know. And they said, well, he's not registered in the system. He's not in here. And I was like, well, I was told he was good to go. They're like, nope, you got to call the separate regions to get him enrolled. They took the payment, but that didn't enroll him. And I was like, well, that's dumb. But yeah, so you have to call a separate region. So if you have split family, the regions, you have to call the separate regions in order to get your family situated.
That is crazy.
Yep.
Wow. So you being a career counselor, right? Our perception for everybody else that is not a career counselor is that you have all the information at your fingertips, that you've been trained to do all this. What would you say when it comes to that, especially for transitioning? As you mentioned, I mean, you already have, you've been running into issues over the last year on something basic as much as your timeline, right? And whether or not you owe the Navy a month or two or not, whatever, right? And then fighting those fights. And from our perspective, right, it would be, well, you as a career counselor, how is that even possible? Let alone little old me that I've been doing maintenance my entire career.
Right.
I know enough to get me in trouble, but not enough to, be 100% savvy and or professional about it. So it's funny to hear you have this perspective and having run into these issues that a lot of us run into anyways.
Yeah. I honestly, and I was talking to, like I said, I was talking to one of our sisters last week or two, about it, because when she had submitted her post in, the retired female chief group, and I instantly started fuming because I'm like, it has been a year. How is this not fixed? And the response is that they are backlogged. And I can't grasp that. If I had a sailor come to my office and I told them that I couldn't assist them because I am backlogged, myself and the CMC are getting fired. I guarantee it. I was telling her, I said, I feel awful that I didn't know of these things until it was my turn. Because I've never had a sailor come back and say that something was wrong. And if there was something wrong or they had an issue with something, we were able to fix it. Nothing to the extreme of they're not getting paid, their VA, or whatever the case may be. Like nothing was ever brought back, or nobody ever reached back out that I'm aware of. To me personally, as a career counselor, nobody's come back to me with something as extreme of the things that I have experienced. And if they experience the things, especially junior sailors, if they've experienced any of the things that I have, even first classes or separating and not necessarily waiting for retirement, but just trying to get a DD-214 has been like pulling teeth. I mean, pulling teeth could be easier and less painless. And I almost to the point feel like I have failed so many, even though we've provided them all of these tools to help them separate in a timely manner and give them everything and the access that they need to finish their courses. My gosh, these courses don't even touch half, any of these battles that we face in trying to get a DD214. So now when they're who knows where, and 4 months have gone past and they can't get onto whatever they want to call it. I don't even know. It's been a year. It's probably not even MNCC anymore, but you know what I mean? We like to play the name game, but nothing is accessible. You lose access to all of these things. So now you are at the fingertips of others to help you, and in hopes that they don't forget about you and they keep pushing and keep fighting for you. So as a career counselor, it absolutely breaks my heart that this continues to happen. And there is nothing that we physically can do per se, other than keep fighting with them. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that I have experienced, I feel awful for anybody that has separated or retired prior to me and had any of these issues. Or something as simple as an extension has been an issue of getting an extension operative for their last 30 days to finish out to their retirement date. And now their family's cut off a TRICARE. Yeah. Because things are not getting processed. So now not only are they dealing with that, they're traveling across the world right now, but they have no medical.
Don't even get me started on, then after that, you got to get your vision and your dental. So you just hop through all that just for your medical, but then your dental and vision. And by the way, your vision and dental is going to be more than what you pay for healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Aware. It's way more, but we are very fortunate because we still don't pay as much as our counterparts on the civilian side.
Oh yeah.
Still a good deal. And then those of us that are having served a full term, or they didn't get a medical retirement, they are going to, have to rely on the VA coverage. So that's where like looking at the stuff ahead of times and start planning. We tell our sailors, we tell our Marines, we tell our airmen, plan. Yeah. But yet we never encourage them to plan for when they get out. And that's why these tools that we've been promoting on our platform,
right?
Tell people, like, if you use these tools, it may not prevent these crazy things from happening to you, but it's going to at least soften the blow a little bit, because you'll be a little bit more prepared.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely help relieve some of that unnecessary stress. And that's the thing too. We talk about stress. So you have all these people you can go talk to, because transitioning is tough. It's stressful, and you can go talk to all these people. Let me talk to the people that won't fix my problem. let me talk to the people that won't fix my problem. Okay, because everything else is fine. I did the courses, I did this, I did that. My time, even if, like you said, if we do all these things, but if things are out of our control and they're not getting to us in a timely manner because they're backlogged, how is somebody not supposed to be stressed? And we can have all the money saved. Obviously that's going to help with the financial side of it, but you're still going to be stressing because you don't have your DD214. Well, you can't do anything with the VA if you don't have your DD214. So it just all trickles down to just everything being done and closed out. But you can't do any of that if you don't have all that other stuff done, and then you can't get your DD214 to get it into the VA, and now you can't be seen yet. But it's like, how?
The whole catch-22.
It really is. And it's frustrating because, like I said, then, junior sailors or anybody else behind us, not even junior sailors, brothers and sisters too, that are all trying to retire and move on with their life. We can't. We're stuck in this. Like I said, it's been a year, and I don't know how many letters sitting here from DFAS. It's ridiculous. We recalculated. You recalculate it one more time, I'm going to have to go back and do another 24 years, because You're taking all my time away, okay?
And they never recalculate for your benefit, it seems like.
No, they do not. It is. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, all right. So, and another thing with the VA is I have to resubmit for through the PACT Act. So I am eligible for it. I fall under all of that. When I was a reservist, I did go to Kuwait. I've hit a couple wickets for the PACT Act. They've got me at 90% right now. And I'm like, you cheapos. No. But they've got, my chronic obstructive airways in there. They've got all of these things that fall under the PACT Act from being in the desert. And Kuwait is one of them. And I have to submit an appeal for that. But it's all listed under there. My DD-214 show that I was in Kuwait for 10 months. But they don't have it together under the PACT Act to help boost that back up. So now I have to appeal that. So the PACT Act is another thing. I will talk to meet clients or members in the gym that have served, and we'll talk about the VA. And he's like, they'll tell me, well, I never submitted for it. And I'm like, what? Go to the VA. And I said, you need to go get it, whether you get nothing or something.
Well, it's like
you never know when something's going to come back.
If you didn't apply, people get overwhelmed because they don't know where to go find a VSO.
Yep.
Literally, you could go to Google right now and search veteran service officer.
And in a small town, even though they don't say they don't take walk-ins, you could probably call and they'd be like, come on in. I'm like, you are crazy. Go to the VA and submit your stuff. And this is probably one of the other biggest things. Before I retired, I definitely had a couple sailors tell me that they never made their appointment. They weren't going to. There's nothing wrong with them. I said, I don't care if there's nothing wrong with you right now. You don't know that. You don't know that there's nothing wrong with you. That day that you fell and slipped and hurt your knee, I don't know, 10 years from now, you might have arthritis in that knee, but you're not going to get any help from it because then when you go see the VA again, it never existed to begin with. I said, you have no idea what's in your record. Trust me, there were things in my record. They're like, how's your right shoulder? And I'm like, good.
It hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. The advisor, she's like, well, I said, well, I was doing this or that. And she's like, something else. But I mean, I did. My collarbone has been jacked up and I really haven't necessarily had too many issues with it. I'm just uneven and my collarbone sticks up. But she's like, no, that needs to be put in here because you never know later on down the road, you could have shoulder issues that are because of the way that your collarbone is. And I was like, okay. I mean, we all think we're fine and dandy, but there were things other than my everyday issues that I know I have. And it's funny, we were talking about the gym today and they're like, it'd be easier for her to list the issues that she doesn't have. So,
right.
but there were so many things that I wouldn't have thought about to talk about.
Yeah, it started when the weather changes, lady.
Oh, right. Like, geez Louise. And then, with all the surgeries that I've had, all the scar tissue issues that come from that, but all the other ailments, then I find out just recently that they botched my gallbladder surgery. So who knows? Yeah, don't even get me started. That wasn't even done at a military facility. But yeah, because I have to go up to Hines all the time for my stuff. And the ultrasound, they did an ultrasound a few months ago, and he was like, who did your gallbladder surgery? This is awful. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to tell me anything while we're in here. But it's in there and there's issues with that. And I still have issues with it. But if I didn't go, I wouldn't be getting seen for these issues for them to take care of it. And so anybody that is separating, I don't care if you've done 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, 30 years, do your VA. because you can always go back a couple years later or more, like later on down the road, and resubmit, be re-seen again, and be re-evaluated. And it's not necessarily about getting the money, but it's about getting the care that you deserve for serving if something were to come up down the road. You may not think that you've been exposed to anything. That paper cut may have been nothing, but it severed a tendon. I don't know. But go to the VA, submit and get your exams done, get evaluated. Like I said, I don't care. You did 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. Go to the VA and get evaluated. You're missing out on what you deserve for serving. I don't care if you're boots on ground, you did admin, you did logistics, you watched airplanes. I don't care what you did. Go to the VA and get evaluated. So that's like the biggest thing. I've heard so many people say that they have never submitted, been evaluated, and I just feel like there's probably many that are missing out on something that they deserve. So
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about some of the organizations that you have dealt with since you have retired. And even before that, what organizations were good for you? What did you like? What did you not like? Or
as far as to help me with my transition, or
with the transition, or as you were mentioning earlier, the Quilts of Valor. Yeah.
That would probably be the only one that I have. Well, so I did. So outside of, I mean, a little bit of everything. So Quilts of Valor is probably the biggest one, as far as veterans, veteran related. But also Second Story Teens here in Princeton, Illinois as well is probably one of the bigger one. Another big one that I've been involved with since I've retired. Older gentleman that works out at the gym. He's a member there. These Second Story Teens provides a safe place for kids to go on Friday nights or on the weekends. And it also provides them the opportunity to shop, but they don't need money, but they go shop for accessories, toiletries, some clothing, like Walmart Distribution Center contributes to them. And these kids, at the end of the day, they have to check in, check out. They have to have approval and permission by parents to be there. But it gives them a safe place to hang out with their friends without being out in town doing drugs and drinking and causing mischief and getting arrested and just, becoming and putting themselves in a position that I always did as a child growing up in a small town. We like adventure here. So, but no, it provides them a safe place. And it's nice to see, again, the small town community. And when I went to speak to them about the military, so these children, a child's mind, I don't care if they're a teenager, they're 7, it doesn't matter. Their minds they're so much more brilliant than I think we give them credit for. The questions that these kids had, and so many were actually interested in affiliating with the military and have thought about it and have possibly talked to recruiters, because these are mostly high school students at this place. And so just to see how my story, and I talked about how I went UA and I did the things that I did, and just because, and more so because of the fact that just because we do something that we are not proud of, doesn't mean we can't come out ahead. And to be able to share that story with them, definitely you could see the eyes light up and see that there is still hope, regardless of what your past is. Your past does not dictate your future. And depending, if you are willing to put in the work for it, then your future, you have a bright future. You just have to be willing and able to put in the work for it. And so those two, Second Story and Quilts of Valor, are the two biggest communities or organizations that I have been a part of. And the gentleman that recently, so that these kids have outgrown the building that they are in. And the gentleman our member at the gym over here, he just donated $50,000 to go towards the new building that they're going to build for these kids.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So those are probably the two biggest ones. I mean, I've talked to, the Rotary Club and just anything that I can be a part of in the small town and share and spread, about veterans, our story, the military, and even just being a woman, period, and in the military, and those starting out the way that I did with very few women being in aviation or being a part of a maintenance team, and having to seriously prove ourselves. And I think it's still somewhat there as, being a leader and growing that respect is still somewhat there. So it's been anything that I can do to get involved with the community. I've put myself out there to just be able to share that story. But other than that, really no other organizations. I didn't necessarily use any when I separated, as I was just more focused on getting my certifications and getting myself set up with my job as a personal trainer. So,
the thing is like a lot of us, we don't hear about these resources until after it's too late. What resources do you think that you, now that you've been out for a little while, that you've heard of, you're like, man, I wish I would have used that? Is there any resources like that you're like, man, I wish I would have, like maybe Navy Cool or something like that could have helped you out with your personal trainer or
no, Navy Cool unfortunately would not have helped me, just because of the fact that it pays for the test, but you still have to pay for the coursework, which is very expensive. So that would not necessarily help me. Would have helped others in different fields, absolutely, 100%. I think it just depended on what they were doing. I definitely pushed Navy Cool and tried to get others to, oh my gosh, brain fart. What is
US Max?
Skillbridge. Holy cow. Skillbridge. It's been a minute, but Skillbridge is definitely underutilized. And I think because of the fact that a lot of commands are undermanned, that they don't want to allow that sailor to leave, which isn't fair either, or it's not talked about, or but definitely a Skillbridge. I would push Skillbridge, I mean, till I lose all my teeth or something. I don't know, whatever saying you can come up with, but Skillbridge for sure. Navy Cool. Some, again, depending on what your destination is, your path is, Skillbridge is definitely going to help people out. And I would just wish more would use it. I think it's a great program. And if there's a path for you, I think there's a path for anything. And if there isn't, you can always apply to make it one. So that's another great thing about it, is if whatever your destination is afterwards, your second career you don't see it in Skillbridge, they will help you find a way to help you build that as an application, and whatever company it is that you're trying to go to, they'll try and make it one for you. So you can get out and start transitioning in that and get the education or the schooling or training necessary to be successful in that next step.
All right, so I think it's time to transition into the save rounds and alibis. Before we go into there, do you have anything else you want to shout out?
No, but this is awesome. I love what you guys are doing. I think this is great. And I hope more and more will jump on to do this. Sorry it took me a year to do it, but life has been busy, but it's been a blessed busy. So I can't complain.
Oh yeah, we're totally thankful to have you on here. So first save round, let's see. Content. What kind of content do you recommend people that are in a transition? It could be books, podcasts, I don't know, a good Hallmark movie,
So I'm very big on audibles and meditating in the morning before you start your day. I am up at 3 a.m. My first client is not until 5. I get up, I eat breakfast, I walk my dogs, I do my thing. While I'm getting ready, I am listening to an Audible. And a lot of it's going to be about, personal development. And I may listen to them a few times, just because you don't always catch everything the first time around as you're listening to it. Or I will listen to like motivation speeches, and that helps me get my mind right for the day. Like daily motivation on Spotify. There's some good ones in there, and it's a mixture of motivational speakers. And it also helps amp me up for my clients for the day. But listening to an audible advice, waking up in the morning and scrolling through your phone, seeing what happened, in the last 8 hours while you were sleeping. Did you miss something on, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook? So listening to an audible first thing in the morning while you get ready and meditate, and make sure you have a good breakfast before you start the day. Because it helps relieve the stress and helps you get your mind right and think positive, and help you remove a lot of that negativity that may start your day like, oh, I got to get up and get going. No, get up, wash your face, get that coffee going, throw that Audible on, and start your day off with the right foot forward.
I love it. That's part of my routine. So, that I think that's very wise for you to share that. So I have a two-part question for you. In your case, it's going to be a three-part. They're all essentially the same thing, just in different times of your life, right? The first time that you joined the military, right? Before you did that, what advice would you give your younger self, right? Joining the military.
What would I give my younger self now advice on?
Yes.
Oh, so everything that I tell young future sailors or anyone that's joining the military, don't let anybody steal your sunshine.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, yes, we're serving our country, but you are you, and don't change to be who you think somebody wants you to be. At the end of the day, it is a job. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. So my biggest thing has been, don't let anybody steal your sunshine. We have a young girl that left, that noticed I had a Chiefs anchor necklace on and my tattoos, and she noticed it at the gym, and she was really excited. She's been in the Navy now just over a year. She's a DC, and she is out to sea currently, but she was really excited, and she approached me and she says, "Are you a Navy Chief?" And I said, "I am. I just retired." And she was telling me she was getting ready to leave for boot camp. And she did. She asked me what my advice to her would be. And I was also asked when I retired, and it is and will always be, don't let anybody steal your sunshine. Do everything that you possibly can do. The military is going to, obviously I wouldn't know that, but your days are going to take 110% out of you. Take that right back. Learn as you can, and encompass all the things and challenges that you face, and look at everything with a positive mindset.
So second part of the question, right? What advice would you give yourself the first time you were getting out?
Probably should have started this sooner, Tanya. When are you going to learn that you are a priority? That would be it. When are you going to learn that you are a priority? Just as much as everybody else.
Okay. And then the last part of it, right? As you were getting ready to transition out this time around, right? Now that you're on the other side, what and how early would you give yourself the most basic advice that you can to prepare yourself for the transition, knowing everything that you have learned now?
I think I lost you. What part of it?
So
what?
now that you transitioned the second time, right? what, especially now that you're retired and you had all these issues, or in disadventures, we'll call them, what advice would you give yourself, and how early would you give yourself this advice?
Honestly, I don't think this with everything that happened that there would be anything that I physically could change or have done sooner. So there really isn't any advice other than the financial side of it, being prepared and having 3 to 6 months of your income ready to be disposable income, to be, how you're going to survive until you do get paid. There's nothing that I personally would have changed in the route that I went. It would be, because honestly, I mean, other than, the 30-day kickback, that actually, I turned that to a positive thing. Cool. You want to pay me for another 30 days? I'm all for it. There's nothing that I could actually say that there would be advice for. Things happen for a reason, and they did, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at. But I don't think there's any advice that I could provide for that, because that was out of my hands. Retirement was submitted so far out that there's nothing I could have changed except for going to MNCC and working there part-time to help them move things along. So
No, but I mean, I think I heard a really big part of it. And you may not notice that you had that advice, is just to keep positivity without all that inflexibility that's going on. I've seen a lot of our brothers and sisters that retire or that get ready to retire in the last month or two. They're just pulling their hair out because nothing is going their way, right? Instead of being flexible like you were and say, you know what, cool, pay me for another month. I'll hang out for a little while, and that kind of stuff. Because I think that part of the being flexible with uncertainty,
yeah.
it's a huge ability that not everybody has.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we get frustrated. We do. Our instant reaction to anything is to get frustrated and get angry. And that goes for anything. And I flew to Phoenix last week to go out for final night out there and at the NRA or NRC, whatever the heck their name is this week. They and I get to Midway and my flight was canceled, and because I couldn't figure out, why am I leaving 4 hours later? What is happening? And they're like, well, it was canceled. Well, of course. I'm like, oh, gross. And they're like, well, you're still getting in the same time. I'm like, well, you're right. Why am I going to get upset? And one, it's not the ticket agency's problem or issue. Why am I going to get mad at her? Then I said, well, could you do me a favor and just see if there's one sooner then, since everything's changed anyway? It worked out. I got to leave early. I left at the same time, got a nonstop. My original flight had a stop in St. Louis, and I got into Phoenix 2 hours early. So you're right. Flexibility. We're just take a couple deep breaths, relax, digest the situation and move on. And I think we do. Yes, flexibility. Absolutely. You are 100% right. That is absolutely it. Be positive about it. Fine. That is it. That is it. Solid. But that's it. That's all I could do. I could go cry about it later, but it's not going to change the fact of what's happening. And we just have to learn to not get upset over things that are not that are not in our control.
So, Tanya, how'd you get in the right mindset while you were transitioning? What put you into that mindset?
Have you met me? Have you? I think I'm just so quirky and happy all the time for the most part that it really was like let's do it. We're on to something new. And it's not like we haven't done anything that required change before in our life. We've transferred who knows how many times. We've put our kids in different schools. And I feel like I've done that for the first time again, getting my little guy situated here. I'm like, it's like I've never done this before, but just I don't know, just we've done change so many times, and you just have to be able to adapt in the best way. And if something didn't work the first time, sweet, move on to the next. What was, what's the next plan of action? What are we going to do to fix it and move forward from it? We've done it 1,000 times. Transitioning out, I feel, is no different. We've just got a little bit more paperwork to do.
What did it take for you to find your purpose?
I think I already knew my purpose, and it was people. And I've had my personal training certification for 4 years now. And being a part of, obviously, the physical readiness programs all the time, coming home and talking to the gym owner here, JP, and then getting my foot in the door as a personal training at a gym that I knew that I loved and have been a part of as a member and a client when I would come home, that this was home, and that this was the right fit for me. When you love something and you're passionate about something, you'll find it. And even if you're not, or you go to that first job post transition, you don't have to like it per se, but there may be some type of benefit that you're going to learn from it and help you move into that so-called dream career for your dream second career, whatever it is that you're looking for. You don't have to like it. But another thing that I've always told sailors is, we aren't always going to see eye to eye with everybody. We're not always going to like everybody. This isn't a game of being friends with everybody. But because how many times have you, oh my God, I can't stand Chief so-and-so. Oh my gosh, AE1 or whatever, they're pain in my butt. And I'm like, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go find one positive attribute about that person that you dislike and build on it. And that same thing goes for transitioning into that first job. You don't have to like it, but appreciate it and absorb the opportunity that you have been given.
I think that was very beautifully said. Honestly, I think having that positive, finding something, being grateful, having those practices, it allows you to see more of what is a blessing, right? Instead of just getting caught in this negative mindset, or just getting stuck on this bubble of negativity. And you just start seeing the bad and the bad and the bad. You can always find something bad, right?
Oh yeah.
With everything, but you can also always find something good. So if you focus on that, it allows you to have that different perspective, that different approach. And it also puts your heart and your mind at ease with going into it like that. So that's beautifully said. Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
So again, thank you for coming on here.
It only took you a year. Good job. Good job.
You're good. And one of the memories that I remember was when you were going through your chief season, and I'm over. I was one of the sheriffs, and I'm watching you go through some of the PT that we had, and my sense was that you were going through more than just physical pain at that point in time in your life. And I saw you overcome some pretty big obstacles.
Oh yeah.
And to see where you're at today, awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that was rough. That was rough. But I like, so I had, without TMI, but I had a procedure. One of my first procedures to help hopefully prevent anything else that I ended up having to have done anyway, was the start of season. And meet and greet, I ended up having to leave because I don't really care. I don't, if you guys don't mind, but as a woman, things just happen. So my insides don't work. Nothing works. Everything shuts down. Nothing's just working. I had a uterine ablation done and meet and greet. I thought I was sweating. I wasn't sweating. I was having issues from my surgery. And of course, we're in our whites. So I will leave it at that. And thankfully, the top went down far enough that you couldn't tell that my incisions were no longer holding. And that was just the start of it. And the fact that I couldn't PT as much as I loved to was frustrating. And then final night, had to go to the ER. It was because of another issue that took 18 months to figure out what was wrong. And I mean, but those are moments that you will never forget and will always appreciate as the building blocks of obviously who I am now and who I have become of those challenges. So I appreciate and I will accept any challenge. It won't break me. It may upset me. I might cry a little. I might get frustrated. I might scream. I don't know. I might take it out of my kids a little bit and scream at them because I don't know, they dropped a gummy bear on the floor or something. I don't know. But no. But yeah, that was rough. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then when Dolores came over after they called for the ambulance to come and they're like, you got to go big or go home, don't you, Tanya? You really do. You got to make it all about you. But, and to go to the ER and then come back, I was like, this is not how this was supposed to end. I don't want to say terrified. I was just so heartbroken. And I think I tried to convince Doc. I'm like, I'm fine. And he's like, I can't because of your history. I cannot. But I'll tell you what, the power of that mess. Woo! You guys, it was the way that everything was supposed to be. That was definitely an eye opener as well of the things that I was going through. And, me as a junior sailor, learning to be able to ask for help at such a young age, I lost that long after that. And then, but going through season and the struggles that I did face reminded me that, yeah, you still need to ask for help. I don't care how old you are, we all need it time to time. And, that goes into, all of the things that we did talk about today too, is I don't care how old you are, how long you've served, how much you think you have to ask for help. You can't do it alone. And it goes into my profession now. And I'm a trainer. I have a coach. And he explained to me, and I asked him, I said, well, how come I can make people beautiful, but I can't do that to myself? How come hold on. I said, why is it I can transform others, but I can't transform myself? And he says, because you are a victim of knowledge. He says, do you think Tom Brady's throwing coach can throw as good as Tom Brady? And I said, nope. But because he knows the mechanics and how things work and operate, he's able to make him better at what he does. He's like, so you are a victim of knowledge. So when it comes to yourself, it's harder for us to apply those things. And just as I said, as a counselor, I took care of everybody else but myself because I'm a victim of knowledge. And we become a victim of knowledge, but we're able to utilize that and share that and spread that amongst others. But when it comes to ourselves, we kind of forget where that knowledge is and how to apply it to ourselves. So, I was like, solid point, coach, solid point. But we can't get through life by ourselves. We have to ask for help.
You're right. Man, this is awesome. And we could probably keep going on.
I told you got to cut me off. The last podcast I did, I think it was 3 hours. So y'all better cut me off, hang up now, because we'll talk forever. But if you ever want me to come back, you can go ahead and book me for next year. And
Hey,
things have calmed down. So
yeah. Hey, Mil2Vet listeners out there, take a listen to Tanya. She has an amazing story I've known her since she was putting on Chief, and man, just watching her kind of grow over the last couple of years has been amazing. She probably did not tell you, but she's been doing some pretty amazing things in the fitness world. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you need to hit her up. She could help you. She could guide you to the right places that you need to go for that stuff. So I I want to make sure before I dial out of here, Mil2Vet family, that we can get her information to your hand. So how can everybody get a hold of you, Tanya?
All right. So email here, and then I'm also Instagram is fitme mind and body. God, I can't even. Maybe. I don't know. Everything's so long.
Here, we'll just have you say those two back to back whenever you get a
Yeah.
chance.
So email would be TanyaGolden80 @gmail. And then Instagram is fitme_mind and body. I think that's right. You don't, it's like knowing your own phone number. You just don't need to know your own phone number. Like fitme, mind and body. Yeah, those are probably the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. If for some reason on Instagram you reach out and I don't respond, respond to a post or a story, because sometimes a lot of those things go over to like spam if you don't follow me or I don't follow you or something, and I may miss it. So just if you comment on a post or something, then I'm going to see that faster than probably in the messages, especially if it goes into some like a spam one.
All right, Mil2Vet family, it is your transition. So make sure that you take charge of it. It's all rainbows and unicorns. Mil2Vet out.